How are you all? Welcome to Gold Rush Reporter Media, your go-to person for metals and mines. I'm Daryl Thomas, and I'm your host. We're happy to be sitting here today, along with Peter Grandich. How are you today? It's great to see you again, Daryl. Yes, certainly. I'll always have you on everything about my show. So happy all the time that the talk happened. I'd like to start by taking a look at the big picture. Goods at the moment. There are a lot of them. There are a lot of writings on gold, and some of the most important, the US needs these metals in order to keep you safe. I guess you can call it a protectionist strategy or something. But I only want to get your looks good there. First off, I don't take part at all when it comes to farming goods. Most one of the goods I'm working with are money metals. The dollar and things like that. Like I said right before we started. Besides, there was one really ugly stock that since then, the last 5 years has been amazing. The metals are made of traders, couldn't ask for more and better not being seen, while the Wall Street and everything is caught up in the fastest ever bubble. There are more bubbles and a lot more than most people think. Sorry, have a stock like Newmont Mining having done the second best in the S&P 500, but no one talks about it. So, the main thing I want to say is that I've never been more optimistic. Oh, you are a little scared when things go too almost as planned. I was a huge buyer of gold that, down to 12,300. But I made money in earlier this year, to own the big gold mills. And then, of course, I went back and put a lot of work into junior resource companies, and they're now getting their day in the sun at last. So, net, I'll tell you, I feel better, but I've been in this for too long and seen too many times. Given my head, I think you get a little tense when it looks like things are going too well. But I couldn't do anything. Say something different from corrective phases. For the mining and metal stocks at some point in time. Yes, we went through some. The last few years have been rough. And the talks that you and I have had, even during those rough times, there were times when stocks were up, down, but it sounds like you stuck with what they believed. Okay, fine. It's one of the things I'll say about what I see here, mostly at the youth level, and especially from small investments, versus in institutions. One of the bad things about the web to do with that market is because there are now a lot of different ways to use chat rooms and other places. Talk a lot about their time frame that has gotten a lot smaller. Their results are expected to happen much faster. From businesses that aren't going to get news every day, every week, or maybe not every few weeks. Even the biggest companies don't have any news every day. Some of the lack of vision is likely what kept some people from taking part in this because they have too high of hopes for the future. I like to say this all the time. I think this should never be lost when you talk about junior resource stocks. Failure is common in the business. Any 10 stocks in which I might be interested is now a junior, 3 to 4 years old. At least half of them will have lost some of all of their worth, and if you just buy them and keep them, at some point, someone is going to say, Grandpa gave me a bunch of losers, the ones that do hit more than make up for that, and I've had that. And now I have a few groups that are already up 5 or 10 times, and they're just getting started on the business side. I still think there's still a long way to go. The corrective phase that finally, it happens in every market. There's nothing that makes me worry that we're at any important top or intermediate top, both in the metals, which, by the way, as you know, Daryl, let me just say this. We talked when I got out of gold. Thought the summer would go sideways, but I hope that happens. because it would set the stage for getting to those amounts that even people like me never thought it would be possible. 5,000, 10,000. That many is no longer crazy. A lot of things are in the numbers. Basic things are happening. And now we have the technical base from which we can start. One more step can get us to 4 or 5,000 in the next 12 to 24 months. Yes, certainly. I mean, and it's also important to understand So the best workers, the ones with the bigger market caps, are where the money goes. That is, especially if the big money is in taking care of other people's. A lot of the time, they're going to go into like an Agnot or Newmont. So every time you go down the chain and you get to the junior, the miners, travelers, and other people who like it, it is for sure, where some of them you could go bankrupt, but then you could get a 10 or 20 bagger out of that too. Okay? So how important is that for people to understand when they put money into a sector? That is important. Also, it is important to look at, the people you're working with. I leave. In the early 1990s, Jay's dad, Joe, had only just begun the meetings in Vancouver. But even back then, gold was only a few $100s an ounce. There were hundreds of things that we would, if not, call stock traders again. 1,000 people who would show up at shows because they got a lot of business because of the order made at that time. Was right to do that. The junior, the market for resources lost a useful an item in a way when requests went down to 0, and the brokers deal with people for a living and giving them full fees for everything, are like extinct animals. That was that for a small business. If they got one of those agents interested, I got a good chunk of their book, which there could be as few as a dozen clients to maybe 200. That has been very hard. It's been hard to use these instead of that medium young businesses to get things done. The second thing that actually took place was, is it really that hard to be a junior in terms of regulations in both Canada and the US? In the US, not only full service brokerage company that doesn't do anything young people, but a lot of the cheap brokers aren't even letting people to buy them, even if they have an OTC sign and you didn't ask for it. That was another bad thing. And then, of course, I guess the third one was the race. The crypto market, and of course the stock market in general has been having to compete for it. So a junior, unless they can really get unchanged funds or begin to really, they see themselves as today's job is hard, despite metals. Price 5 to 10 times more than it could have been 10 or 20 years ago to get people interested. It's a lot tougher test for these young firms that are ahead of the rules for how it's hard to find the 1 in 100. Resources that can be turned into mines, everything. But what you said at the start about is becoming a better idea now, teenagers. And that's, the world has seen that most of them are not. Most of the world, not just China, lack metals and rocks. And they know now. And they're in a hurry at the same time. Trump's trade war, which he started, used a big stick instead of the olive tree, is likely to make it even more important for sure all over the world to feel like they need that you get this. There are a lot of good things for the younger market. Do not stop. Keep this in mind, Dahl. I choose not to keep. I'm going to talk. But the bottom. This line has been there for a long time. Been a market with too little cash. There hasn't been a lot of new money that went in to find all of these sources that everyone now knows. And keep this in mind. This isn't something we find today, and we'll begin selling tomorrow. 10 to 15 years on the bottom of the stick, and sometimes 20 years or more after the first from the finding to the first pour. That's why there is peace in politics now. It's crazy to hear politics talk. Peace with the miners are just what they're fully on board with each other. Yes. So some people you said earlier that you know where the market is a boom and all that. Oh, that is even Sam Altman from OpenAI, who runs the chat service GPT and has warned of an AI bubble. Oh, there's this market that keeps getting stronger, especially after JPAL came out and said, you had a hint at us. When interest rates were lowered, stocks went up. Once more and so on. So there are a lot of worry about that front. Could you please talk to the correction phase that we had in 2008? Because gold was running before 2008. After that, we saw everything went down a lot except gold. In the end, it bounced back and went even more so. So, I feel like this might be the case if even the market is at an all-time high and we're in a boom. Even if I believe that gold is going to fall, to go higher and higher, especially when things like that happen.